PTH. Actions of PTH on the kidney. This has always been a confusing subject to us, to all of us. I know that you hear frequently in other videos, professors and at school, hearing professors saying, this is a subject that confuses students, and therefore, if you pay attention and study, you will do bad in your exam, PTH in the kidney. Well, they never had a problem with PTH in the kidney, and it's never been confusing to them precisely because they never understood it. They memorized the whole thing. Now they're in their professorship, in their grandeur professorship, regurgitating all the information, reading PowerPoints. That's all they do, them professors is colleagues. Read PowerPoints. I dare them, I always do. Teach a lesson without the PowerPoint. PTH, so we're going to do it differently. The actions of PTH in the kidney, we're going to do it differently than the magna cum laudes, professors of physiology. They always start with the action, what produces, what increases or decreases the concentration, what stimulates the production of PTH. And then they move to the kidney and say what happens in the kidney under the influence of PTH and where. We're going to start the other way around. We're going to start with where PTH acts in the kidney, what it does there, and then we'll become intuitive what stimulates the production of PTH. PTH acts in two locations in the kidney. PTH. One in the proximal convoluted tubule. And what happens in the proximal convoluted tubule? Proximal convoluted tubule affects or reabsorbs. Well, the proximal convoluted tubule reabsorbs everything. Everything is reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. Calcium is reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. Phosphate is reabsorbed in the convoluted tubule, proximal tubule. You eat that chair and it will be reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. Anything, everything, amino acids, glucose, sodium, chloride, all reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule reabsorbs phosphate. The proximal convoluted tubule reabsorbs phosphate. And so PTH affects the reabsorption of phosphate in the proximal convoluted tubule. Nowhere else. Nowhere else. And what does it do with the reabsorption of phosphate? Well, it will be helpful to remember what it does by remembering the name. The name PTH, the first, or the original name, the first time it was called, it wasn't called PTH. I know the guy that discovered it. I read his paper. Him and I used to hike the Himalayas out in the 1830s. I knew the guy. And PTH stands for phosphate to hell. The hell with phosphate. That's what he discovered. And the proximal convoluted tubule sent phosphate to the toilet. Of course, the British Royal Society didn't like the fact that he had such vocabulary in their journal, so they rewrote it. And what a coincidence, what a great coincidence that PTH can also fit for parathyroid hormone. Beautiful coincidence. But that wasn't the original word. That wasn't the original discovery, the original name of phosphate to hell. It decreases the reabsorption of phosphate in the proximal convoluted tubule. So it wastes phosphate. The other place where phosphate acts, or PTH acts, is in the distal convoluted tubule. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Well, A, B, C, calcium, D, distal convoluted tubule. The distal convoluted tubule reabsorbs calcium. It is the most important, probably, event that happens in the distal convoluted tubule, the reabsorption of calcium and magnesium, especially for some pathologies, especially for the use of some of the diuretics that we use in, in medicine. Reabsorption of calcium and magnesium and the ascending loop of Henle and the distal convoluted tubule. So PTH acts on convoluted tubules. It doesn't act anywhere else. Where? Question of the grandeur professor. Where does PTH act on the in the kidney? Ascending loop of Henle, reabsorption of calcium in the ascending loop of Henle, reabsorption of calcium in the proximal convoluted tubule, phosphate proximal convoluted, reabsorption of calcium in the collecting ducts, or reabsorption of calcium in the distal convoluted tubule. Well, first, eliminate all those that don't have this convoluted. In the word convoluted, the calcium is a convoluted thing because all they do is memorize calcium. They don't understand calcium. They don't understand PTH. That's why it's so convoluted. Convoluted tubules. Distal convoluted, D, calcium, C, D, distal convoluted tubule. And so the third thing, the third action of PTH on the kidney is that, well, the kidney adds a hydroxyl group in the carbon 1 of vitamin D. Our hydroxyl groups for these molecules are like bling bling. It's like bling bling. Vitamin D already comes with one bling bling in carbon 25. And then under the action of PTH, the kidney then adds another bling bling in carbon number 1, another hydroxyl group in carbon number 1. This change to vitamin D allows the reabsorption. This molecule will have to go to the intestine and allows the absorption of calcium and phosphorus in the intestine. So this should be intuitive. What does PTH do? What secretes, what promotes the secretion of PTH? If you're in the kidney, you're saving calcium, reabsorbing calcium. Well, why would you do that? Unless you needed calcium. Hypocalcemia induces the production of PTH by the parathyroid hormone. And then the PTH, the parathyroid hormone, by the parathyroid glands. The parathyroid hormone produced by the parathyroid glands. The PTH, the parathyroid hormone, then goes to the kidney, and in the proximal convoluted tubule decreases the reabsorption of phosphate, which may cause hypophosphatemia. Mild, because there's an increased reabsorption of phosphate by the intestinal tract. And in the distal convoluted tubule, it reabsorbs calcium. So it increases the concentration of calcium. Once you have enough calcium, that is a negative feedback for PTH, for the parathyroid gland, to stop the production of or the secretion of PTH. So now we understand, forever clear what PTH does in the kidney. It acts in two places, convoluted, both of them. The proximal convoluted tubule decreases the reabsorption of phosphate down to the toilet with phosphate. And then C, calcium, at the distal convoluted tubule reabsorbs calcium. It also adds a bling bling OH to carbon 1, which increases the reabsorption of both calcium and phosphate in the the intestine. So calcium increases the production of PTH, decreased calcium, hypocalcemia, increases the secretion of PTH by the parathyroid gland, and increased calcium concentration decreases the secretion of, by negative feedback, of PTH.